Human-wildlife conflict has been in existence since time immemorial. We have human beings who stay alongside wild animals. They undertake their day-to-day activities such as rearing their livestock alongside wild animals. Wild animals such as buffaloes, leopards, lions, baboons, bird life, amongst others. They have learned the culture of the animals. They have a way of knowing when they're to migrate, and they have a way of knowing what time they'll come from their feeding areas. They know when to look for firewood in a protected area and which areas are safe. They know when to take care of their crops and what they're supposed to put up so that they scare the wildlife from interfering with their own farm produce. Ladies and gentlemen, I take this opportunity to welcome you to my video. Our topic today is unique harmony between human-wildlife coexistence. If we listen, we shall save millions. Millions in fencing our protected areas, millions in treating for injuries from wildlife, millions in killing wildlife through snares and poisoning. Millions will be saved in compensating those who lose their livestock, those who lose their crops because of wildlife. We shall have resurgence of wildlife because we shall not be staying in protected areas. We shall not be harvesting for commercial purposes illegally our animals. Human beings have lived for a long time alongside wild animals. They have learned their culture and how to survive without reducing wildlife population, whether for domestic or commercial use. Kenya has a national park named Nairobi National Park right in the capital city, and part of that park has communities which we can call the rural community, and another side has the urban community. It lives and neighbors the national park, those communities, and if you travel to Kenya, you are likely to see an estate known as Lang'ata, which is right opposite the main gate of Nairobi National Park. Now, in Lang'ata, this is what I can call a very urban estate. You will be able to see mansionettes and very decent apartments. We have all manner of cars outside, from the top range to the smaller vehicles. Most of the time you'll get baboons that are climbing on the vehicles, on the perimeter walls, and on the rooftops. The people are seeing them and they don't send them away. The two are used to each other. They live alongside each other. In the same estate called Lang'ata, we have the indigenous livestock that will be grazing along the tarmac roads. And next is a cemetery known as Lang'ata Cemetery. We have social amenities next to the estate like St. Mary's Hospital. We have St. Michael Catholic Church. And we have, of course, the security institutions. Ladies and gentlemen, the baboons in Lang'ata do play with children, do play as you wash your car, and there is totally no threat from the baboons. They look for their food in the dustbins. If you leave your window open and you do not have an electric fence on your perimeter wall, they may access the house through the window or the open door. that is when traces of destruction will get to be experienced. If it were not for you being a little bit careless to leave the window open, then there's no way the baboon will access your house. If it's outside, as you can see from the pictures, the baboons just play. They do not bother about the children. They do not bother about the adults. They are on their own, looking for their food and also playing and basking in the sun. And you continue with your day-to-day work. Motorists always take precaution when driving. Riders take extra precaution not to knock any herder, not to knock any baboon, not to knock any livestock. Respect for each other. They respect the baboons. The mentality of conservation is in the human beings who stay in the area. Ladies and gentlemen, you can imagine what it means to have conservation inside you. It simply means not only laws have been enforced to stop poaching, but the mindset is such that baboons have to coexist with human beings. Or on a larger scale, the animals have to exist with the human beings. Now, for aesthetics, the baboons are very beautiful. You'll be happy to take a photo with them. And of course, earlier, as you have seen the photographs, some of them are with their young ones. Inside the estate, you'll get in Langata sighting of the baboons in dustbins on the ground and perimeter wall is what adults like in terms of taking photos. It is such a beautiful scene. The eye can hardly get any fatigue. Humans appreciate wildlife and do coexist beside each other. On very rare occasions, will you get a baboon following up an adult? And if they get a mango nearby, they'll hit you with that fruit called mango. They're good at climbing trees and they're hardly so much on the ground. They leave the ground when they see human beings. They're more on the perimeter walls and the rooftops. They can feast on whatever they get on their way once they access the house. I must say they hardly attack. We also have changing patterns in the culture of human beings. Increase in population densities has led to migratory corridors and other wildlife protected areas being encroached for settlement and different domestic and commercial activities. One has to fend for the family when they're in a place. And in the process of fending for family, you want school fees for your child, you want food for the family, then you end up finding yourself on the migratory corridor. When time for migration for other animals reaches, then that is when the human-wildlife conflict is really realized in some places, particularly in Nairobi area, in Kitengela area, because the animals know psychologically this is our route. And you planted your house on the migratory corridor of the animal. That type of encroachment, who is to blame? Definitely it is the person who encroached on the migratory route of the animal. Nature has to take its course, and during such migration, the routes that have the human beings will experience destruction of property, injury to livestock, injury to humans, and sometimes it leads to death. Death because you are staying on the migratory corridor. Culture, coupled with awareness creation and enforcement of laws, has made resurgence of wildlife to be realized because we are not hunting. The laws on hunting are quite enforced. If you are found with, for example, an animal trophy, then you have to face the law to the latter. And remember, some of them have very long-term sentences, and you are better off fending for life in a different way than being found on the wrong side of law, simply because you are poaching. Because the human mind has known how to conserve and has known this is the boundary of the protected area, the flora and the fauna will naturally pick up for the better. Ladies and gentlemen, allow me to say that with conservation, you get benefits. You get benefits because when tourists come and they want to see our wildlife, they pay at the gates. When our children come and they want, for example, from different schools to visit the Nairobi Safari Walk, or what is famously known as the orphanage, there'll be some fees. Then the country will be getting revenue from the local and non-resident visitors to our parks. The revenue will in turn help build the country in different ways, e.g. develop areas where the communities are withstanding the menace from wildlife and coexisting. Is that not very important? Our children get to be employed. Ourselves, we get to be employed. And once we have income, then the lifestyle improves. We can be able to afford to bring up sober children, sober in terms of children being able to go to school well, not being sent away for fees every day. They'll be able to have uniform and basics like food, basics like housing, basics like you can afford to take your child for treatment when they're unwell. So it is important that we conserve our wildlife and not just look at the menace of baboons or hitting them when they have learned that human beings can be coexisted with. So this is the case of Langata area. If you'll be planning to settle in Langata, most welcome, and be having a psychology of coexisting with the baboons and visiting the Nairobi National Park. Thank you.